Welcome to Mercy's Designs. My name is Mercy and I sell Stampin' Up! Products. Today I'm going to show you these really cute cards. I'm calling this 2 for the time of 1 because I'm going to show you a little trick how to, a little bit of a mass producing thing, which one part is not that unusual, and that's using the Stamparatus. But I am going to be stamping both of these cards pretty much at the same time. So that saves time. So to get started, I did want to talk a little bit about the DSP. So here is our DSP, and I have it on this board. And when I was cutting this DSP, I cut it in vertical strips, usually, and that works out pretty well. But then I end up with 4x4, and that was a bit of a problem because I wanted this more of a landscape layout. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So you have your piece of 4x4, oops, right here, and when you bring in your matte layer, I was trying to think, oh, do I put it on this side or this side? And I thought about it, and it didn't look quite right. So I'll bring in my one layer here. So I kind of felt like it looked kind of odd. And I got this great idea, why not cut off an inch and spread it? So that's what I did. And I think the result is really cute, and it highlights then your sentiment here. And this is from Stitch So Sweetly dies, which I absolutely love, and I just put it more vertical instead of landscape, and I think that looks really well, and it really highlights this. It draws your eye right into it. So again, we're going to get started. I'm going to explain a little bit more about the Stamparatus and how I arrange this. So you have to have a strip no wider than 6 inches when you're running it through your die cut machine, but I stamp and then I die cut. Sometimes I use tape, and other times I have to do it separately 2 times. You can run it through 2 times. But here are where my sentiments are, and I wanted to make 2 different cards, but again, save time. So right now I'm just going to pop in my little die cuts real quick. So we have 2 of the Stitch So Sweetly labels in the same shape, but you could definitely do it differently. It depends how much you want to vary your layout. You could do different shapes for the sentiment. But I wanted these actually to be pretty much the same card. I just have to find, there's a little notch on this one, and I'm kind of looking at that right there. So originally I was just going to do the pineapple, and then I thought I want to do the flower too. So that's what that's about. Okay, so I'm going to bring in our pretty peacock for the sentiments. So I'm just going to ink that up really well. All right, set that aside. And for the pineapple and for the flower, I'm going to do a little bit differently. So the pineapple, I have my ink pad here, and I'm just going to lightly tap on some of the Daffodil Delight. Now, if I went up into the top part of the pineapple, I can just take my chamois, I can't speak, and just clean it up a little bit. So the next thing, I'm going to try to make sure this is in screen, is I want to get my Pear Pizzazz on a little dauber, and I'm just going to spread this evenly over it. And if it goes down a little bit into the pineapple, all the better, because a lot of pineapples, I've noticed it looks a little green into the top part of the pineapple. So now this is pretty peacock, and I'm going to decide which side I want more dark, and I've decided I'm going to want this side more dark. So I just adding a little bit, and a little goes a long way. I might have added a little more than I intended there. Now this is the Mango Melody, and I'm going to daub on here because we're pretending that this side is the darker side. That part is kind of important because it'll make more sense. If one side is lighter than the other, it might look a little odd. Okay, so right now I'm just going ahead and inking with my Grapefruit Grove, and then with my dauber, I'm going to take some real red and just dab on a little bit into the center. Most of this was going to end up getting covered, but it just adds a little bit of interest. Okay, so it's been a little while since I did this, so I'm just going to hit it one more time just to make sure. And then we're going to stamp. So when you get it done, you have everything. Now, if these aren't dark enough, you can actually, of course, re-stamp a second time, but I feel like they're pretty good. And if they're pretty good, leave well alone, right? At least that's what the saying says. Okay, so I'm just gonna put that out of the way. So here we have all this ready. Now, I'm going to show you about my technique about cutting off an inch. And this is when this little mini trimmer is extremely handy. So you can do either take off an inch here or take it off an inch there. I'm going to take off an inch here for this one. So I'm just going to bring this in, line it up at 3 because we're just, and then I have this little strip. So the next part is we're going to bring in our base, and this base is the soft, well, is the matte, the soft suede, and it's 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And of course this originally was 4 by 4. So we're gonna lay that there, and I'm gonna do a bit of a dry layout. I ran my paper through the Coastal Weave embossing folder, and it just adds a little bit. This is a condensed enough that it makes a big impact on a small area. So what you want to do then is line this up a little bit here and here, and that looks pretty, like it's going to come out pretty well. This, by the way, is 1 1/8 inch wide by the 4 inches, of course. So I'm going to just bring in my Tombow glue, if I can find it. Sorry, I see it. And we're going to go ahead and adhere this. So you can see this, you can really mass produce this card and be really, make it really quick. And I feel like the rest and relaxed sentiment here would be a really cute Bon Voyage card to send to someone who's like maybe going to the tropicals or something. So that would be cute, or it could be a birthday card, depending what if you stamp inside happy birthday, then that would be perfect as well. So something to think about. Or you could just write your message in there, happy birthday or bon voyage. All right, so that's looking pretty good. Just had to add the center strip. Now, where I decided to put the ribbon really depended on where these cars landed. So, I just want this a little up a little bit. All right, that glue sets pretty quickly. All right, so especially when you don't use a ton. So for this one, I'm going to use this real red cotton ribbon. Oh, there it is. It's 3/8 inch. And the other one, I will be using this in color one, the scalp linen ribbon. So I'm just going to set this aside so it's not so distracting. I am just mainly worried to place it in a way that will, you know, not cover it. So I don't want it like that. I don't want the vehicle covered. So I'm just going to put it like that. And I realized that my tape disappeared. Maybe one of my kids borrowed it, quote unquote. So I'm just going to use a little tear and tape to hold the ribbon behind. You can definitely do it that way, or I like just using some Scotch tape. So I'm just going to cut off a piece, set that aside, and but this works as well. So I'm just wrapping this around and sealing it off. The only reason why I prefer, well, taking it off is easier too with the Scotch tape, but it's a little easier to reposition if you are realize you're crooked after the fact. So that's another reason why the Scotch tape is a little easier. Okay, but this works. All right, so that is our ribbon. Now for the base. So I wanted to use the Pear Pizzazz base. So I think that looks really cute together. But before we add the bases, let's assemble, back in this and do quickly our sentiment features. So I have some leaves here, and we're going to do a little bit of sponging on the leaves just to draw out the color. So I'm bringing in a scrap here, lining our leaves up. We're going to need these 3. And I already have some ink still on that Pear Pizzazz. Ooh, gotta be careful not to bend it, but it'll be fine. And just rub it, and it will really enhance the embossing in there. It's just beautiful. This Timeless Tropical is really a beautiful stamp set, but these dies are really the star of the show in my opinion. You have this huge pineapple and all these little banana leaves and various leaves, aloha. This will cut out the palm trees, and then you have these little flowers, the big flower, pineapple, the little pineapple. So really cool set. It's great to get as a bundle, and you'll save 10% if you do it as a bundle. All right, so now we'll go ahead and start assembling these, and you're going to see this goes pretty quickly. I think this idea is really cool to make 2 cards kind of at the same time, because it could save you a lot of time and when you're die cutting and even stamping. As you can see, that went pretty fast just to do 2, hardly any more time than it would have if I had done 1. So I'm just going to tuck this under, and I like the sequence of having 3. So that one's complete. Now this one, we're just going to add real quick. Oop, that rolled off. Okay, so you can see how that goes down really nicely. For the flower, I'm going to go ahead and pop it up. But one of the things I like doing, or making sure, is I don't put anything in the exact center if I'm going to use a rhinestone. And the reason is I want there to be a little give when it's being mailed, so it can push down, because mailing is hard on these cards. The other thing, if I use a rhinestone, I like to take a scrap piece of paper and emboss it and cover the front of the card and then mail it. I've heard about that trick. That's not my original idea. And I think that helps too. So I'm just going to decide which one I kind of want to be at the top, pop it down. Now, I want this to kind of set evenly up here, but I felt like when I didn't add a leaf, it looked really, really matchy-matchy, and I didn't quite want that look. So here, I'm just gonna move this aside. I think we're done with that. So that is why I decided, okay, I'm gonna add this leaf. And I don't know if this leaf particularly belongs to this flower, but it doesn't really matter. You know, we have some creative license here. So realism, it doesn't have to be a top priority. So there, and you can see now it pushes down a little in the center. So I'm just going to grab my rhinestone here, and the very smallest one of these, you can kind of mash into that center if you want. Now, if you didn't want to do this part, you obviously wouldn't have to, but I kind of like a little sparkle, and I could do the same here, but right now I'm not going to. All right, so, but bring back in our pieces here. So we have this one. I did go ahead and cut this one and put this embossed paper in, just to save a little time. So for this one, we just had to add our ribbon. Okay, so now add this one, and you already have the glue out. If you're thinking about it, it makes more sense to do 2 cards than just 1 sometimes, especially if you need a bunch. So I hope you give this idea a try. Just like use your Stamparatus, get all of your die cuts cut, and then pop them in, and you can make 2 cards at the same time by doing that. So hope you liked this idea. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below, and I'd be happy to get back with you and help you. If you have any stamping needs, please email me at meonce3@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to help you place an order with the host code. So now we just have to finish this up, and that is pretty simple. What I'm going to do is, I don't know if any of you use this 3M tape, but I got the skinny type. And let me tell you, it's really handy actually sometimes for projects like this when you want something straight. And this is slightly lower profile than the dimensionals. Now I still will always be using those dimensionals, but occasionally this is a good alternative. So I'm putting some directly on here because I want this to bridge the ribbon. I'm not trying to interfere with the ribbon. So be done. We're going to be done with this in a second. This one, and then we'll just put the other one together, and then I'm going to do one of the insides of the cards. So isn't that gorgeous? So relax. You deserve it, all that good stuff. It's your birthday. May your birthday be memorable. All right, so I'm gonna bring back in my paper, my scratch paper here. We're gonna just set these over here. Actually, I'll just get them out of the camera view because it might be a little distracting. All right, here's our palm branch. And again, I'm only gonna do one, and I'm going to speed up this process so you can see it and not have to spend too much time. Okay, so that is the result. I did a little bit of, I stamped the top of the palms with the Pear Pizzazz, and then I sponged a little bit of the pretty Peacock in there, and I think that's really pretty. And then I just sponged on some crumb cake. All right, so, oh, here's my glue. We're just gonna add this and be done with the card. And I hope, again, you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna bring in my cards, and then we will close this out. So again, you can, you know, do a lot of things here. You can do it on this side. You can do it on the other side. Where's my, oh, over here's my other card. I'm like getting these all. So I did a bunch of different combinations you can see here. Just really pretty, I think. So I hope you give this a try. I will list all the cardstocks I used and dimensions, etc. in the description below. So happy stamping.